Let me begin by wishing all of you a very prosperous 2015. This will be a year of challenges and opportunities for all of us in community and public transportation. As you are aware, later this month, Congress will convene in Washington, and we'll begin with the President's State of the Union message outlining his goals and objectives for the legislative year ahead. The State of the Union is also designed to report to the nation on where we are as a country and what kind of progress we've made over the last year. Last month, right before the holidays, we issued a new digital CT edition covering what I consider to be the State of the Union for us as both an association and as an industry. For those of you who haven't reviewed this issue yet, I encourage you to go to our website at www.ctaa.org to take a look at this important issue that cites two specific areas that we're concerned with. One, the demand and status and future growth of our industry, and secondly, tools that we need to better address the changes in which we find ourselves. If you look at the issue, you'll notice that we project demand for community and public transportation will continue to grow and will continue to outpace many of the traditional investments that we've used and you've used to make those services available in the communities that you serve and call home. Over the last several years, this has been extremely difficult for many of you, especially since we have been unable to raise sufficient capital in Washington to expand or replace our bus and vehicle fleets. That trend continues with that increased demand. Today, more Americans use some form of public transportation than at any time in recent history. New kinds of transportation services have also appeared in communities around the nation. Such services as Uber and other so-called shared ride services provide important linkages for consumers. And in our own case, there have been growing forms of medical transportation based upon lower prices that have made services very difficult for many of our members and traditional providers. As we look at the future, we see that growth will continue. Many years ago, we all talked about the increased number of Americans living in urbanized areas, as well as a growing elderly population. We also projected that Americans would need newer and faster ways to work. All of these have come together to increase demand. Demand is very hard to deal with. Many of us came of age in a time when there was less demand for community and public transit, and many of us spent a great deal of time and effort and financing in marketing our services. But today, that has changed dramatically, as has the kind of demands that we find people making on us today. There is a greater demand, as shown in the edition of our magazine, for increased personalized services, because people don't work the way they used to from 9 to 5, but they work different schedules. There's also an increased demand for more outpatient health care, especially as we continue to implement changes in the medical systems of our country that require more and more specific services at times that better suit the needs of the patients than suit our abilities to provide those services. As we looked at this situation, we are challenged not just by the demand, but what can we do about it? And the second part of this issue of Digital CT Magazine deals with ways that the association is trying to help its members cope with the situation of rising demand and less traditional federal and state investment. All of us have heard our discussions on medical transportation. The truth is, there will be more money spent on medical transportation in this coming year than in any year in our nation's history. The difficulty is that the access of those funds is more complicated by different methodologies and approaches at the state and local level, using a range of different kind of intermediaries, not just brokers or states, but insurance companies and other third-party payers who will dominate the payment systems that are being created as part of the healthcare reform. Our efforts to help with that have taken many forms, including there's a great article in this issue on our effort called RIMS, an effort designed to help local agencies approach these needs differently. The same thing is true on employment transportation, where our Vanpool Works discussion talks about new ways of getting people back and forth to work. In addition to these, there are other areas on how to approach your communication strategy and how best we can plan for the future. All of these are contained in the second part of that issue that talk about ways that we need to expand the playing field and the financial field to better help you and our members in the year ahead. We know that you're under great pressure to find ways to do services at less cost, and we have some ideas here that we think can help you. Another thing that we're exploring in the year ahead, which we discuss in this magazine, is that it is very important that community and public transportation be involved in the development of new jobs and new economic resources in the communities they serve. As part of our effort, we'll be expanding our financing program into a new effort called the Night Train Express, which will be a resource for you to come to us and say, there are new businesses in our communities that are looking for financing for their efforts to expand or improve their businesses. I'd like to be involved with them, but it would be great if I had some tools at my disposal, like could I help that business expand by financing it in some way? Could I link to other kinds of financing to become more important in those discussions with chambers of commerce as well as businesses? We plan to give you those tools as well, because every time that a community or public transit agency is more involved with those expansions, we're more likely to be part of the transportation solutions. There are many things in this issue that I encourage you to read because they can be of help as we look forward. While all of that's going on, be assured that we'll continue to make our arguments for expanding public transportation investment in this session of the Congress. I would advise you that Congress and the administration remain deeply divided over many issues, and it will be a very difficult period ahead as we strive to create a consensus for public transportation funding. But as we point out in this issue, traditional funding alone cannot address all of the rising needs that lie ahead in our future. That's why this issue of the magazine deals with other resources as well as projecting those trends. A lot of work has gone into the last decade of improving and expanding community and public transportation services. By working together, we can find new ways to do that and continue to build on the record. The future is one of opportunity, and we must be ready to look beyond the traditional ways we've done business in the past to continue our expansion and continue our services to the people that mean so much to us. We think there's a bright future here, and we think that the people of community and public transportation in 2015 are the people to lead us to where we need to go in expanding those services. Thanks. I hope you'll stay tuned throughout this year for ways that we can all work together and help. The future, again, is one where we will be challenged, but it will be no different than the past, where we have seen community and public transportation people expand their services and meet the challenge every day in that special place you call home. So thanks and Happy New Year, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the year ahead. Bye for now.